In this new area of globalization, it is possible for both men and women to become the victim, but women are always being the vast majority of victims of sexual harassment, no matter where they are. But most of the sexual harassment against women occurs in the workplace. Before we move deep into the topic, we would explain the definition of sexual harassment. 3 forms of sexual harassment: verbal, visual, and physical. Verbal harassment can be comments on appearance, requesting sexual favors, or repeatedly asking person out, innuendos, rumors, foul language. Visual harassment
includes, for example, obscene posters, drawings, pictures, or emails or texts of a sexual nature.
Physical harassment
includes sexual assault, impeding or blocking movement, inappropriate touching such as kissing, hugging, patting, stroking, rubbing, sexual gesturing, or even leering.
Quid pro quo means a situation where an employer or supervisor coerces an employee into a sexual act or relationship by using job rewards or punishments. These include offering raises or promotions, or threatening with demotions, firing, or other penalties for not complying with the request. The issue of sexual harassment has become an important topic during last years. The topic is being talked about more and more openly these days, and there are more ways to protect employees than ever before. Sexual harassment is often perpetrated by a leader, a manager, a supervisor. This form of violence remains rife and poorly addressed despite legal interventions that have made sexual violence a criminal act. And widespread implementation of diversity management and training. The AHRC initiated a national survey into sexual harassment in Australian workplaces. The results of this survey show that 1 in 3 people have experienced sexual harassment at work in the last 5 years. As with lifetime sexual harassment, women were more likely to be sexually harassed in the workplace than men.
In the U.S., according to a survey conducted in January 2018 of 1,000 women and 1,000 men aged 18 years and over, 81% of women and 43% of men reported experiencing some form of sexual harassment and/or assault in their lifetime.
2015 survey showed that 71% of women do not report sexual harassment. And far fewer bystanders report harassment that they have witnesses. Megan, a woman who works in finance, explained that after being harassed by a colleague, she went to HR and asked to move to a different position. Her request was not granted, and not long after, she was written up for an unrelated and trivial infraction.
In another case, Janet, a public relations executive, saw the chief legal officer of her company sexually harass an employee, but didn't report it. She remembers thinking it would be political suicide if she complained about him.
Why women don't report sexual harassment? Due to inadequate support systems, shame or fear of being socially isolated, retaliated, blamed or not believed. Effects of sexual harassment on individuals. Sexual harassment can have negative effects on individuals' mental and physical health. Mental effects can include depression, reduced motivation, loss of self-esteem, or isolation. As physical can include high blood pressure, work accidents, or even suicides. Effects of sexual harassment on companies. Sexual harassment also harms companies by legal costs, increased absences, employee turnover, or reduced productivity, motivation, and commitment. It can also affect the desirability of the vacancy.
Employment situations with high rates of sexual harassment.
A study made in U.S. found that some employment situations have higher rates of sexual harassment. These include working for tips, working in an isolated context, working without legal immigrant status or having only a temporary work visa, working in a male-dominated job, or in a setting with significant power differentials.
What can employers do to make a workplace safer? First, the employers can change the workplace culture to one that promotes respect, equity, and civility. For instance, sexual jokes, innuendo, sexually inappropriate comments, or touching should not be tolerated.
Second, the employer should check in with employees, using anonymous climate surveys, adopt and maintain comprehensive anti-harassment policies, and provide a confidential complaint procedure. They should also ensure that discipline for perpetrators of workplace harassment is prompt, consistent, and proportionate to the severity of the circumstance.
Employers can offer workplace civility training and bystander intervention training that should be mandatory and focus on prevention of harassing and abusive conduct.
The Metoo Movement. The Metoo Movement was founded in 2006 by social activist and community organizer Tarana Burke, as part of a grassroots campaign to promote empowerment through empathy among women who have experienced sexual abuse, particularly young women of color from low-wealth communities. In October 2017, actress Alyssa Milano encouraged using the hashtag #MeToo on social media to help reveal the prevalence of sexual assault and harassment, especially in the workplace. The movement has now grown to include both men and women of all colors and ages. In addition to empathy, there is also a focus on determining the best ways to hold perpetrators responsible and to stop the cycle.
The power of Metoo movement. Positive effect. Metoo movement affirmed for survivors that they are not alone. Developed a stronger community where survivors feel like they have a voice. Demonstrated how widespread the issue is. Shifted social norms and opinions about the issue. Exposed belief systems that enable abuse. Increased compassion for survivors leads to concrete changes in laws and policies. Created avenues for survivors to speak up and share their stories.
This kind of movement is empowering and will continue to help struggling men and women break free from the silence of sexual harassment.
Campaigns like these are relevant to current society because, nowadays, many gargantuan actions are being considered unimportant. Many victims do not dare to speak their minds, and some media discourages victims to stand up to people who do abuse them.
Individuals standing up against sexual harassment shows future generations that it is okay to speak out against harm.
Speaking out can impact daily life because we will have more people break free from the chains of silence and discourage and hopefully lessen actions of sexual misconduct.
The worst thing that happened to me wasn't being raped, it was being betrayed by a broken criminal justice system.
My childhood was a mess. I was abused in so many ways.
I was so full of shame, I just felt dirty, and there was no way I could trust anyone, not even my friends.
I have tried different therapies since I was abused and harassed. Some made me feel at the time, but the depression kept coming.
I felt lonely as I sighed and couldn't speak for a long time.
I would lose whole days disconnected from the world.
I see that I am not alone now and that many people like me have been exposed. I will talk now, something needs to change.
It is also important simply to create a space for dialogue between men and women to talk about issues such as sexual harassment.